Hi, my name is Jimin, and I am here to talk about pop-up cities. Well, specifically as a category for social and governance experimentation. We started this pop-up city research initiative around 6 months ago, last November. There has been many pop-up cities out there since Uzalu in 2023, and we figured there were not much of a documentation and proper research going on around like different pop-up cities and how we could compare or understand the current landscape of it. So we started it, and these are the research questions that we started with, such as what kinds of value people seek when people are engaging with pop-up cities, or like what are the expectations are actually realized, and like the costs and benefits, the balance of it, whether it makes sense, how pop-up cities models differ in structure and forms, and yeah, like what are the current models differ as well, and which group serves well, and how we can make the future iterations more economically, socially, and operationally sustainable. And then these are some of the numbers. We've done 84 plus interviews with all the key stakeholders of the ecosystem. There are like 54 plus pop-ups and intentional communities, adjacent type of organizations covered, and there were like 90 plus surveys. And yeah, like 89% of the codes are triangulated across at least 3 or multiple independent sources. And I am not going to go through all the research details and methodology here, but this is the website if you are interested in looking into it, and also happy to chat more if you could, if you reach out to us. And yeah, so like pop-up cities can be many things. I don't know how familiar you guys are about pop-up cities, but it can look like a network state precursor, or it could look like a startup incubator. It could look like a hacker house or residency models. It could look like a conference, or many different things here. And so like what is really a pop-up city, or at least how in our research sort of figured as a pop-up city? Well, this is an operational definition rather than sort of like authoritative argument that we're doing. But yeah, like temporary and intentional communities where a cohort gathers in a shared physical place for a defined period, usually around some sort of substantive common purpose. So like there were some 4 recurring features that we've been consistently observing, and also help us to distinguish these formats from other adjacent formats such as conference and hacker houses and other stuffs. Those are like co-presence, shared intention, time-bounded intensity, and selection-generated trust. And as you see in the graph, pop-up cities sort of locate between conferences and universities in terms of time frame, and somewhere adjacent to conferences and different meetups, concerts, festivals, type of things in terms of population. And also the shared intention part is specifically important because we see pop-up cities as in relation to the broader wave of tech-enabled new city and special zone experiments. Someone could call it network state initiatives as well. So like institutional ambition really mattered in our report, and in terms of how we typologize, sorry, how we come up with 4 different archetypes depending on duration and institutional ambition, and whether pop-up cities have been financially sustainable. There were lots of questions about economics of pop-up cities, and these are some of the survey results. And the revenue varies a lot, from under 25,000 to up to $1 million per just one addition, and whether revenue cover total expenditure or something like that is, well, most either reports they are approximately break even or ran a deficit. And yeah, like a little bit more of the findings in terms of finance is that costs vary widely, and it varies from 75K per event to about $2 million. And it usually depends on the scale, the location, whether it is hosted in a like premium location or it is, you know, in a relatively cheaper location. It is more related to that rather than programming itself. And per person costs also range quite widely from $170 per person per week to like around $1,000. And also our research implies that there's no flagship scale cases have yet achieved a self-sustainable model without premium pricing or ongoing subsidy. And then these are some of the criticisms and risks also been observed or suggested, such as exclusivity or monoculture, some of the like fragility around funding and economics. And there are some like governance that is rather opaque and founder-led when we are talking about decentralized governance, and also lots of core team and organizers members burning out, and etc. etc. And yeah, like this survey for attendees also suggests that like some of them report that cost was too high relative to the value, or there were some kind of issues with communication channels. It's cut off, but says like too noisy or inefficient, or the governance and decision making also very opaque or unresponsive or things like that. But still, the trends is growing. There has been around 100 cases of pop-up cities since 2023, since Uzalo. And this year we are expecting to have around 50 different pop-up events. And then also there's a little image there shows the geographic distribution of these events, suggesting that it's happening all over the world. And then you would ask then like why pop-up cities actually matter and why it has to be now. And then these are some of the following reasons that I would answer, which is that, well, this is the obvious one. New technologies are creating new powers faster than institutions can regulate them responsibly. And yeah, pop-up cities can be good bounded environments because we could test some like new technology, some kind of new governance models, some kind of, yeah, like for example, AI agents for coordination or digital IDs. I don't know if you could see, there was supposed to be another, can you see it? No. Right, so, so yeah, for example, if we could actually come up with some outputs such as failure log from experiments that we're running around AI agents for coordination for around, let's say, 500 people or something, or UX datasets, some kind of like adoption playbook or something like that, then it would be a meaningful dataset that you could implement potentially to a bigger audience or bigger environment. And crypto clearly is maturing, and then now is like maturing from an asset class into actually like coordination and settlement infrastructure, and now is the right time to actually take this more take this to a next step and experimenting within this environment. And thirdly, digital nomad visa attracts individuals, but pop-up cities could attract an entire network. There's roughly 40 to 43 million global digital nomads populations, and also there are 64 different countries now offer nomad or remote worker visas. And cities and jurisdictions are competing for global talents and capitals, and pop-up cities can create a good reason for these kind of specific talents and high mobility people to actually gather and not only have fun there or experiment, they actually form a relationship with the specific location there and potentially move and work or reside there. And IRL economy is one of the topics that's been emerging a lot. So it's not going, sorry. Well, anyway, online identity is becoming embodied through real-world gatherings, and the importance of IRL connections and community events, building communities, are getting more. Sorry, how do I fix this? I want to just go to the next slide. It just doesn't. Yeah, it's just.
Looks like your laptop froze.
Uh-oh.
Then there's probably nothing we can do. All right. Why is it not? What kind of tool are you using?
It's Figma.
Yeah, clicky.
No. Fuck.
Unplug it quickly and restart.
Oh, because of the Wi-Fi.
Try again if it navigates. You can go back here. Start it. Looks good. I'll plug it back in, yeah? It's fine, it's just an internet problem. The Wi-Fi went dark.
No, I can't see anything.
One sec, I'll just... Now it should work. I just need to go back to full screen.
Right. All right. So yeah, IRL gatherings, importance, and importance are emerging. Come on. Yeah, this is actually from McKinsey's report of Gen Zers want spaces for co-creation and community. And since we are in East Prague, I wanted to also mention the relations between Ethereum and pop-up specifically, because I'm sure like many of you are familiar that this pop-up city, the term and the format somewhat emerged and propagated from Suzalu directly. And that could be Ethereum's role in this pop-up city ecosystem as a historical catalyst. And then there's cultural incubator rule, which is that Ethereum space has been talking a lot about public goods, DAOs, decentralized governance, credible neutrality, and open source coordination, digital infrastructure, and everything's here, which is directly also related and important for pop-up cities to coordinate properly. And also, as a technical primitives, important, Ethereum is important and could do a lot of things in terms of how you could use this kind of technology and protocols to not only test but also help pop-up cities, especially if they are moving toward like permanent or more ambitious projects, to like coordinate and test out this mini version of society. So I would say crypto's first institutional question was whether digital assets could become legitimate financial infrastructure. And the next questions that we could ask is whether this crypto-native coordination could organize people, funding, identity and governance, and public goods in the real world. These are also from our corpus. Sponsors. What sponsors of pop-up cities are saying is that one sponsors actually reported that they hit 100% KPI, but also notes that participants valued relationship formation and serendipitous collaboration outside of this kind of KPI frame. And also, there are multiple sponsors constantly argue that the highest ROI for sponsoring or participating in pop-up cities comes when companies participate directly and like sending some of their team members into a pop-up city and participating there rather than just remaining as a passive sponsor. And also, some of the findings regarding economics imply that pop-up cities' values are often under-captured and illegible yet to existing funding or evaluation models. And the investor layer may not only be about a pop-up city itself, but the infrastructure, these membership, these governance tools, and the way to locally integrate and safety systems, documentations, and longitudinal outcome tracking. These are the infrastructures that are all needed in order to run a pop-up city in a more rigorous and effective way. And investors and funders also need some diligence framework to evaluate pop-up cities and similar adjacent projects and ventures better. So are pop-up cities just a new event format, or are they actually prototypes for the cities that we wish existed? And to that questions, I want to show you some cases as part of our research as well. So Edge City just recently published a request for experiments, which includes a list that shows like liquid democracy or quadratic funding, prediction markets versus committees for resource allocation, and privacy-preserving governance without exposing personal data, agent-to-agent negotiations. These are the things that actually they think they could run in a pop-up village environment to experiment. And also they are sending, like following, like there were a expedition that they did last year in Bhutan, and following to that, they are sending some mentors to Bhutan to collaborate and share knowledge around the AI system thinking, mechanism design, and education. Also, yeah, these are the stats that they're showing on their website. There were over 12,000 participants and 300 plus startups and projects incubated or started in the pop-up cities. And there were network school ones. Network School this month, they are hosting Ethereum Network School Month as a genesis of their Ethereum node inside a network school. And they are growing, and yeah, this is the ETHNS. I don't know what is wrong with this. Yeah, and also, I don't know if you guys heard David's talk before. They just rolled out this new feature in their operating system, which is basically like a calendar feature with low friction, because they were previously using Luma, but they are putting lots of efforts into developing their operating system. So they are now having quite rigorous, as you see on the right tab, of all the way to coordinate within this environment. There are former city announcements a few days ago as well. They've been running pop-up villages across the world over the last 2 years in many interesting locations, and now they are going permanent and setting their permanent hub in the UK. And also rolled out an announcement about residency they're running this summer. And there are many more interesting things going on. I'm sorry. Switzerland recently currently is rolling out a white paper about the Combinator, which is like permanent accelerator and builder model. And there's a bally of comments hosting their first pop-up villages this summer. And there's Future Camp and Zanzalo in Zanzibar also coming. And and the Mu Shanghai is actually starting tomorrow in Shanghai, anticipating to host 1,000+ builders across the country. No, not just the country. Connecting international and local talents. And there are platforms that I want to also introduce. I do not have enough time, but this is a village tech incubated and developed in a pop-up village called the Proof of Retreat, mapping pop-up villages around the world. There are this platform called ZooZone. They are optimized for Zuzalu ecosystems. They are listing Zuzalu zoo family pop-up villages and events. Wow. And they're doing newsletter things. And there's an XYZ city. Also, directories and dashboards for different pop-up villages and network state projects. So there are clearly a need for infrastructure in this environment. And these are the things that are already mentioned. There's an interesting research initiative going on inside a EF use case lab called Verifiable Cities, which I wanted to also introduce a little bit for city use case landscape and pilot ideas. Which is interesting because learning pain points from cities and municipalities directly and solving or testing it in a pop-up or smaller scale environment first would be a good use case. And so whether you are operating as a community or as a governance testbed or as an accelerator, whatever the format that you are taking as a pop-up city, if you ought to produce more durable value, then these are the things that we argue that are needed more in the space. And as pop-up cities are becoming an emerging category of temporary society experiments, the next phase would require legibility and durability and transferability for it to be more meaningful. So depends on your role. I would love you to participate or have more attention to these matters. And if you are operators and builders, then I think there are more documentations and figuring out some measurement tools and frameworks and some sort of standards and standardizing practice would be great. And then there are also some, if you are funders or investors or interested in investing or sponsoring, then also please support the infrastructure, research, and founders, and also focusing on local integration and long-term evaluation. And for institutions and host jurisdictions, actively host or co-design the experiments and test different things, bring the problems that you want to solve, and let's solve this together. That is it. Sorry, I probably have some time, but thank you so much. And if you have any questions or feedback, inquiries, please contact us this way. And yeah, happy to answer to all the questions. And yeah,
you so
I mean,
much.
if you're involved in like pop-up cities and we haven't yet reached out to you, then well, probably first check your inbox first, and then yeah, please reach out to us. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jimin.